welcome back to a quarantine edition of Four Guys Talkin Sports, the podcast. My name is Luke Legrano.
I'm Ryan Hicks.
I'm David Axel.
And I'm Lawrence Legrano.
Yes, Four Guys Talkin Sports, the show where all four hosts are enjoying a nice change of scenery. Gentlemen, how are we holding up? All right?
You know, we do this in our homes every time anyway, so I think I'm the only one that's actually changed scenery here.
I've got a new wall and a nice little poster up here.
I turned my computer 180 degrees. I'm facing my other wall.
And Ryan's in his kitchen. We all have it.
I'm in a whole new state.
Oh, you're not in your kitchen? Okay. I lied. Ryan's in the same spot. Ryan's in the same spot. Okay. So we're trying to give you guys some content here. I know sports has still been canceled, but I figured why not talk about the one big thing that's going on, and that's NFL free agency. So what better way to start off than with the news that broke just a few days after our last episode? Tom Brady is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. It's a 2-year, $50 million contract for Brady. Not bad for his first test of the free agency market. And we'll start with Boston's favorite son, Ryan Hicks. What's on your mind, man?
It's unfortunate. It's just an unfortunate circumstance. It is two people who needed to make a business decision. They both made that decision according to what was in their perceived best interests, and it ended in a great schism. And that's how the business works. That's how professional sports teams works. It's unfortunate. I hate that in the fall, assuming that we have the NFL, that I'm going to have to see him wear a different jersey and that he's not going to be playing for the New England Patriots. But with that being said, Belichick made his decision with regard to what's best for his team. Brady made his decision what's best for him. Unfortunately, those two decisions didn't meet eye to eye like they have in the past, and that's where we're in the situation where we are now. The hope is that the Patriots can create a system that's best for whoever their new quarterback is going to be, and hopefully Brady does as well as possible. And in a best-case scenario, both teams go 13-3, so we don't have to hear any BS Brady-Belichick arguments. So that's what's going through my mind. It'll be interesting. It'll be a unique fall that I've never experienced in my lifetime, so we'll see what happens.
Best piece of content that I've seen come out is that Tom and Bill are two separate people. Everyone always talks about Tom and Bill, right? But Bill can't go out there and throw footballs, and Tom can't go to a locker room and coach a team. They're two completely different people at the end of the day with well, I guess not completely different job functions. They both, work in football, but they both do very different jobs when they walk in that building. And one will be able to survive without the other. And it's just because it's all that we know that everyone's freaking out. And, they just might be the best tandem franchise quarterback head coach of all time. So that doesn't give you any less scrutiny. But they're two different people. And I think Ryan hit the nail on the head. They both did what they thought was the best thing to do. And for Brady was to go to Tampa. And boy, am I excited he's out of the AFC East, man.
I wore the shirt of the best quarterback in the AFC East to celebrate.
It's true.
You don't have a Josh Allen shirt, Luke.
None of that.
Honestly, David, this isn't even me trying to be anecdotal. This is me being 100% serious. I think I'd rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick than Josh Allen.
So hold on. Here's my question right now. Who do you think has a better record, the Jets or the Bills, this season?
Bills.
Okay. All right.
Bills hands down.
Just making sure we can settle that right now.
Bills are going to win the division.
Really don't think the Pats are still going to win the division?
No.
Ryan, what do you think?
You?
I do, yeah.
I want to wait until the end of free agency and see what football team is in August. I think that it's significantly harder, and we have seen all but one play from Stidham, and it was a pick six.
By who?
Yeah, it's fair.
Who's the pick six, Ryan?
It was against the Jets.
It was Jamal Adams. It was the president of the AFC East.
My president.
Sure.
Ryan's rolling his eyes. I can't wait till Ryan rolls his eyes when his team is 0-2 to start the season.
That's always true, though. They always lose 2 of their first 3, and then they finish 13-3.
Very true. Very true.
It's going to be interesting.
If you look at the Vegas odds to win the East, the Patriots are still the favorite.
Wow, really?
Those guys seem to know something.
Vegas does know something.
I'm telling you, man, Pats to win the Super Bowl, it's like 22-1. That might be the steal of all time.
So now that we've talked to Ryan and we've all given our initial reactions to Tom Brady leaving the AFC East, let's throw it on over. We have Jay Dombeck calling back into the show. He wants to give us his thoughts on the Brady fiasco. So let's get Jay on the line and we'll get right into it. And now we are joined by Jay Dombeck. Jay, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good today. Thanks for having me on again, Luke.
Absolutely. Now, Jake, you hit me up over the phone a couple days ago. I know you said you wanted to talk a little Tom Brady and his departure from New England. Please speak whatever you got to speak.
It's a big deal. It's a huge deal for everyone up in Boston in the New England area. I mean, Tom Brady was ready to go. There was a little tension between him and Belichick, and unfortunately, Kraft had to side with Coach Belichick in not being able to offer Tom a 2-year deal. They kind of disrespected him and didn't want to pay him, and we're looking to go into the future and either start with Stidham, draft a QB. They're going to look at some free agents, but Tom Brady's ready for this next chapter. He's excited. I think the Buccaneers is an outstanding fit. He's got 2 premier wide receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and I think he's going to have a lot of fun in Tampa Bay. He's moving into Jeter's home. I'm sure you heard that one, Luke. So he's excited to be in the Florida area. And I think what's good about Tom Brady is he's a type of athlete and person that's not going to blame Kraft, not going to blame Belichick. He's ready to move on, start something new. I mean, what else could he bring to New England? 6 rings, 9 Super Bowl appearances. I think he's done what no one else can do. So he brought a lot to the city of Boston and the New England Patriots. Foxborough will miss him, but welcome this second chapter to Tampa Bay, TB12 and TB.
Ryan, this is your field of expertise. Do you want to voice your opinion here?
Yeah, Jay, it's Ryan here. I just want to pick your brain on why you think it was disrespectful the way that Belichick approached it. Because the way I see it is there were 2 people who were in a situation that has never before been experienced in the NFL. There was no groundwork. You have a coach who is thinking long-term in the future of his team, and you have a quarterback who's at the tail end of his career who is using his accolades to get a payday. And I don't think that either person is wrong in this scenario, and I don't think that there is any disrespect in this scenario. I think that Bill had the future of his team in mind and knew that offering a quarterback that of this age that much money just wasn't the right business decision for him in the way that he wants to control the football team. And I think that Tom can look at everything that he's done and say, I'm worth this much money. And unfortunately, the 2 just didn't agree on that value. But I'm hard to find where there's disrespect in the scenario, because I think that 2 people understood the situation that they were in. And it's unfortunate that it ended the way it did. But I struggle to find any form of disrespect in the scenario.
Sure. I respect that opinion 100%. Thanks for that. And I do appreciate where you're coming from with not much, if at all, disrespect. The only thing I really find a little disrespectful, and he actually, I want you and Luke to read Tom Brady on the Players Tribune. It was outstanding. And Brady's going to look forward, not back. But something he really, pointed out in that article is that he's going to be more heard in Tampa Bay. The one disrespect isn't just the contract negotiations. It's, throughout all his time in New England, Bill kept saying, this is my system. This is how it works. Well, I'm sorry, Bill, you are an outstanding coach, this and that, but Tom Brady is the one throwing the football out there, making smart decisions, this and that. And I think you have to respect him and pay him actually for what he's given you thus far. And my thing is I know Tom Brady's 42 years old, but how about the fact that, he had a pretty good, a little un-Tom Brady-like year, but how about the year right before he wins the Super Bowl against the Rams and has a comeback win against the Chiefs? I don't see much of a dip in Tom Brady, and I do not think we have to view Tom Brady as a standard 42-year-old quarterback. This is the greatest of all time, and I have not seen him, think about it. Tampa Bay was offering to pay him. The Chargers wanted to pay him. The Raiders, everyone wanted to meet with him. But I hear you with Belichick wanting to look into his future. But I think when it comes to Tom Brady, everything about the future, instead of the future, you look at right now, because Tom Brady has brought you so much, and you respect and pay him.
So, yeah, I guess that's where the difference of opinion is that, like, should Tom Brady be heard? Sure, but I find it hard to believe that Bill was making decisions just completely disregarding Tom. Do I think there are issues that they disagreed on? Yes. Do I think that there's a working relationship there where there's millions of dollars on the table over 17 years that probably ran its course, just like business relationships do? Yes, I do. I just think that that's the nature of things. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. It's unfortunate that I'm going to have to see him play in another jersey next year, and I will root for him every game of the season unless he's playing the New England Patriots. But I just don't. I think that there comes a point where you want to be heard. You want to be heard. They're still a coach and they're still a player, and I find it hard to believe that Tom never had any input, and I just think that Bill probably made decisions that Tom didn't agree with. And if Bill made those decisions 10 years ago, would there have been that much tension? Probably not. And again, I think that's where that business relationship is running its course, is that they started to go in different directions and have different viewpoints. And I'm sure that they both got a little stubborn, and that comes with, the familiarity between the two of them. But I just, I think it's two business people. Tom went to the Kraft family and then called Belichick and was on the record and saying he was crying at both conversations because it was so hard for him. And I just think that maybe Tom was looking for a new challenge. Maybe he wanted the money, but then there's a variety of different things. But I just I'll never see this schism as a sign of disrespect. I just can't, unless something comes out years down the line where we hear some horror stories. Everything that we know now is not to me what I can perceive.
Sure. More business to you. And I 100%, I hear you on that. And a quick question to you. Who do you want to see starting week 1 for the New England Patriots?
I've gone, as free agency has unfolded, my mind keeps changing. At this point, it seems like there's a lot of confidence in Stidham. With everything that's on the market, like, let's give the kid a shot now if there's that much faith in the system. In an ideal world, I think it would have been cool to see someone like Bridgewater come in, who kind of has had a rocky road and was under Breeze. I think that would have been cool to see. Do I think Cam Newton would be cool to see for a year and then probably get old of the act? Yeah. But I think that I've toyed around with a lot of what would be fun to watch for a year, kind of like a video game, and what is actually good for a football franchise that now needs to figure out who's going to be throwing a football for the near future. So I guess in my video game scenario, would a Teddy Bridgewater, Nick Foles, Cam Newton there for a year and see what happens be cool? Sure. Realistically, does Stidham know the offense, and he's been under Brady for a year now? Let's put the football in his hands and see what can happen. So I think that as time goes on, I'm leaning more towards that route and less from the video game dream world. Let's see who we can throw in the system and figure it out. So right now I'm locking it in. Let's go Stidham. That's where I am.
There you go. And I had one other thing to add, and back to our Brady and Belichick talk. I feel like this situation's so difficult because there hasn't been a quarterback coach duo with this much success. I mean, of course you're going to have some tension. Is it you? Oh, wait, it's me. No, wait, it's you. Of course you're going to have that. You have a brilliant mind on the sideline, and you have a brilliant mind on the field. So when you have a Brady Belichick combo and a once in a, I'm going to say lifetime, some are saying once in a generation now that we got Patrick Mahomes on the block, but hey, we haven't seen this before. And of course there's, there could be a little tension, but yeah, I completely hear you with not as much disrespect. I understand that, hey, all of these leagues, as we're seeing, NFL, MLB, NBA, it's business decisions, and I respect that. I do.
And that's why I have the firm belief that anyone who has any hate for Brady or any disregard for him and all the jersey burn like that, I just think you're just an immature fan who doesn't understand sports at that point. So I totally agree with you. I just think that, it's one of those things that two people had to make a difficult decision, and unfortunately they didn't go the same way on the decision. And we're going to see a very interesting year. But I also think it leads to a larger point of how important free agency is when you look at Tampa's sales, their jersey sales, Brady sales. Like, talk about turning a franchise around financially. Like, the Bucks are probably going to sell out every game this year, and Their merchandise sales have already gone through the roof. So you want to talk about turning a franchise around financially? Like that's what a player like that has. So it's a very interesting free agency. It's been a fascinating time. We will never see a quarterback as good as Brady. I will die on that sword. We will never see a duo as good as Brady and Belichick. And we have witnessed the ending of the greatest run in sports history.
Absolutely. You just said it. I don't know if it's going to get much better than that. I mean, 20 years of greatness, winning records, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 rings. I mean, it's just, the resume speaks for itself. And back to your point in Brady rising the city of Tampa, I got a cousin who lives in Tampa Bay, and he goes, Jay, this city is electric already. They just love that a superstar's in town. They like that feel. They feel they could win right away. A lot of, rah-rah, a lot of, jump on the Bucks bandwagon. You're going to have a few bandwagon fans now. Of course, you got the Tom Brady lovers across the globe. But yeah, this is great for the city. And I think this is great for Brady. I mean, I know you had to leave New England, but a second chapter, something, new and fresh. And one thing I wanted to add that Adam Schefter actually said when I was reading the other day, he goes, Tom Brady's such a winner and he wants to chase history that he wants to do one more thing, and that's bring Tampa Bay to the Super Bowl in the year that they are hosting it at Raymond James this year. No quarterback has ever done so, and Tom Brady's got one more thing left on his resume. I know it's hard to believe. His resume already speaks for itself, but he's Tommy, he's chasing one more thing, and it's going to be a pleasure to watch. I'll tell you, I love talking Brady. I love talking sports with you guys. You guys are great. Always great opinions. Great. We're fact checking, no fake news here with Legrano, right?
Never. I got the degree to prove it.
Yep. And it's always a lot of fun.
All right, Jay. Thanks for calling, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, guys. And you guys have a wonderful day and stay safe throughout the coronavirus.
Hope you're doing well, Jay. Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate having you.
See you, Jay. Good talking to you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, take care, everyone.
Okay, now we're done with Brady talk. Let's move on to our teams. So let's start with the team that's arguably had the best free agency of the three of us. David, can you tell us a little bit about the Colts?
Oh yeah, dude, it's looking great. They're stacking up some good players on defense, which is one of the first times I've seen that in my lifetime. That Colts defense has never been something that you'd be too confident in. So now there's pretty much a feature name at almost every position. On defensive line, you got Justin Houston and DeForest Buckner. Linebacker, you have Darius Leonard. Anthony Walker's up there too. Not sure if you guys recognize that name. Xavier Rhodes over at cornerback and Malik Hooker playing safety. Malik Hooker's probably the worst of the bunch or the most shaky just because he doesn't stay on the field too much. But the kid is still a ball hawk. Has the potential to, have 3-4 picks a year, which is a lot in any level of football. So that defense looks good. Ed and Phillip Rivers is big too. Better than Brissett. Obviously, he's not Andrew Luck. But he's a quarterback that's played in the NFL for a long time. And I think that in the kind of run-pass option scheme that Frank Reich is trying to build or trying to continue to play with, Rivers will be able to slot into that very effectively. The only problem I see for this team right now is effective receivers. So I think they'll be drafting a wide receiver. That's probably all. This is the only thing I can look at and say, yeah, this needs to be addressed.
So a big outlook for the Colts, a lot to work on for the Patriots, if I do say so myself. Ryan, how do you think that Bill's going to go forth and address this?
So the problem is when you look at the Patriots drafting is that it's so random and they always have needs and they end up taking some random lineman out of Nebraska. So other than N'Keal Harry taking that last year, it's always that. So I don't know. I trust Bill. I'm hoping he figures something out right now. I mean, I'm not as worried about the defense, but they've lost some pretty big names, especially in that linebacker core. So it's going to be interesting. It's all the Patriots are very much up in the air just because we're going to see a team. You could always say, well, Brady's going to figure it out and the offense is going to be okay. And we could let the defense be uncertain for a little bit and they would figure it out by the end of the season. And now you don't have that cornerstone and you don't have that guarantee. So the Patriots team that we're going to see take the field is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen before. And because of that, it's really hard to predict because we don't know how anyone's going to do without that cornerstone in the locker room. So it's so up in the air, and we're not really going to have a good look of it until week 1, 2, 3, really. So I wish I had something more for you, but I really don't have any good assessment because there's nothing to lean on.
I know predicting the season is hard, but knowing what you know of Bill, do you think that he will make a couple extra moves before the season starts, or do you think this is going to be relatively quiet, use all your draft picks, and then move on?
I think it'll be quiet. I feel like if he was going to make a splash, he already would have. So I think it's going to be quiet, personally.
All right.
That fits his MO more.
No, definitely. And Lawrence, I'll let you close this out. Can you tell us a little bit about Jumbo Joe Douglas and his O-line?
Jumbo Joe Douglas's O-line is looking a lot better on paper.
It is.
Better on paper. They lose Beachum, where they haven't re-signed him yet. He's still a free agent. And that's probably the worst thing that happened because they get George Fant, who's been a perennial bench player, 6-man in kind of guy, and he lines up as the starting left tackle at the moment if they don't do anything about it in the draft. They re-signed Alex Lewis left guard. He signed Greg Van New York Kid, 31. He played guard in the CFL for a while to start his career, and then he caught fire with the Panthers and started for their O-line last year, so he may line up at right guard. Connor McGovern was the biggest signing of the bunch. He is presumably going to be our center, but he can also play guard too. So he's done a lot of things, and Fant can play anywhere, either edge. So you think Idoga probably starts on the right side for now. However, he signed 4 guys, and he signed Josh Andrews from the Colts too, but that was more of a depth signing. He signs 4 or 5 guys, and you still don't think this is done, though. I really hope that they end up taking, the Bill Belichick classic. This year, it's the white kid from Iowa, the big hunk of junk white boy from Iowa, Tristan Wirfs. Looks like a freak of an athlete, but he has almost eclipsed the amount of offensive linemen that Mike Maccagnan signed in his years with the Jets.
It's true. He's very close. I think he signed 5 already. Is that it? He signed 5 already, and Maccagnan signed 8 in his tenure.
So he very clearly wants to build from the trenches, which is great. The other only
effective in football.
The only 2 other really notable signings they've had were Pierre Desir, who was also from the Colts, and our cornerback depth is so unbelievably terrible that he's the best cornerback on our roster at this point. So hopefully that changes, and they can. I really want Joe to sign another corner that's still out there, a Mukamara-ish kind of level. I was hoping they were in on Rhodes, who David mentioned before, but they weren't. Someone that just is an able-bodied starter, so you can have Desir, X, and Poole in the slot, who they re-signed too, which was pretty great.
Desir's not a bad player. He's
No, he's not a bad player at all. But he's not going to be able to cover Stephon Diggs twice a year. He's not going to be able to cover Devontae Parker twice a year. He's not going to be able to cover Edelman twice a year. Probably not. No, Poole take Edelman. I don't know who lines up outside, but that's irrelevant. He's just not. He's a good player, but it's not who you want your number one to be.
He'll be able to compete though,
right? So I don't know if they address that in the draft too. And I think the other position, and they made a signing there, and these are really the 3 positions that the Jets still need to work on, which is incredible. But was wide receiver. They lose Robbie Anderson to the Carolina Panthers and signed Brashad Perriman. And that was interesting. I think everyone's expecting him to be worse than Robbie Anderson. I would also believe that, but I also believe there's a chance that he could be better.
Pat Pitts of the 4th and Goal podcast is very high on Brashad Perriman. He thinks we got a really good steal here.
I don't think so at all, and I'll be completely honest.
No, I agree.
I don't think so at all. But Robbie never caught 1,000 yards more than one season in his entire career. He's not a true number 1 that everyone in Jets Nation kind of hyped up to be. Brashad Perriman gets drafted by Joe Douglas's unit in the Ravens, poor kid had bricks for hands coming out of college. He could never hold on to a pass to save his life. Gets cut, goes to the Browns, gets cut, goes to the Bucks, finds life. And with Evans going down and eventually Godwin going down, you now know who Brashad Perriman is because he was relevant on the waiver wire. And that's it. That's it. He has done nothing to impress in the first 3-4 years of career. He had a stellar last 6 games in Tampa where he was on pace for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. Right? So if he can build on that, he'll be better than Robbie Anderson. Will he be able to build on that? Might be doubtful.
I feel bad for Devin Funchess. Nobody wants that guy.
Well, the receiver class this year is not helping the market whatsoever, and I think you saw that with how long it took someone to.
I think it's the best receiver class I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it kind of tells you that, because Cooper got signed to an outrageous deal at the start of free agency, 5 years, $100 million. And then weeks went by before Robbie Anderson got signed because I think the receiver market wasn't strong because they got all these young guys in the class.
Right. So who needs it? Like 2 years ago when Darnold and Allen that year, that was the year of the quarterback or the big quarterback class.
This is the year of the receiver.
The big receiver class this year.
Yep, without a doubt.
Okay, let's move on to our last portion of NFL free agency talk. We're each going to pick 3 teams, and we'll go one at a time. Our first team we pick is going to be a team that we think is winning free agency so far. Our second team will be a team we believe thinks they are winning free agency, but maybe they aren't in as good a shape as they think they are. And finally, we'll each give a pick for a team that is still lost in the woods and still needs a lot of help. Lawrence, would you like to start us off with your team that you think is winning free agency?
That's really hard. And I think, am I going to steal David's answer if I say the Colts? Probably, right? But I think it's them. I think the two biggest, honestly, I think the DeForest Buckner acquisition is still the biggest thing that's happened, bar none. I mean, he is such an upgrade for them up front. And they upgraded their quarterback. Rivers can play, and he's been in the playoffs. They are the closest. They were the closest team going into this free agency. They had the most talent. And I think they won free agency.
David, you want to go?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that completely. I was kind of going to say mostly the same thing. The biggest problem was quarterback, which was addressed. Now, I mean, no one expects Phillip Rivers to be a Pro Bowler out here, but
it doesn't need to be.
But he doesn't need to be, right? He just needs to not throw picks because the run game is effective enough, and it very well could have won 10 games with Jacoby Brissett if the kicker didn't miss 2 field goals down the line. So, if you're improving on that, there's no reason they can't win the division when the Texans seem to be bailing, jumping ship, and the Titans look like they may be taking a step backwards. No reason that division can't be won.
So I thought long and hard about this, and I kind of thought Tampa was the easy answer here. And they got their QB. They re-signed a lot of their talented players. I'm not sure this team won free agency, but I think a team that's winning free agency, I really like what the Dallas Cowboys are doing. They brought back Dak and Amari Cooper. Those were 2 big names they really needed to bring back. They re-signed Sean Lee and Blake Jarwin, who are 2 great players that get no recognition. They brought in Clinton Dix, who's a solid safety, brought in Poe and Gerald McCoy to bolster the defense, and they brought in the best kicker in the league, which is a problem they've been having. They lose Travis Frederick to retirement, but I think the Cowboys have been really on top of their game trying to remake their team. And with the NFC East being so bad, I think this might just be their division again.
No, it's the Eagles, and it's not close.
Why isn't it close?
It's definitely close.
because the Cowboys, I don't think it's close. The Cowboys have not improved their team more than marginally. You said they brought a lot of people back. Yeah, well, the people they brought back won 7 games last year.
They also let go a remotely incompetent coach, which is going to help. That's you gotta figure that's going to help them win a few more games.
I don't know. Because it could go that could go the other way.
I can't believe that wasn't in Luke's argument.
Are the Eagles that much better, though? At the end of the day, too?
I think they might.
No, I really don't think they are.
What if you get a healthy Wentz?
Well, when have we gotten a healthy Wentz?
Good point.
That's a great point.
Ryan, close us out.
I'm going to take Tampa just because it's easy for me to, and I can fit into the stereotype. But I also think that you're.
I could talk about my friend Tom.
Well, not even that. It's. I mean, you get Tom, which is huge, but Jameis Winston could not have been more of a liability. I mean, you watch the guy's last 3 games, and all he did was throw it to people in the other uniforms. I mean, he hurt that team a lot.
Cost me pick him, dude.
Yeah, oh my God. So, I had Winston. I started Winston the last game of fantasy, and all I needed him to do was get positive points, and he threw 4 picks. So, that doesn't help either. But I think that switch helps that team significantly when you know that the quarterback is most likely going to throw to the team wearing his own jersey, which was not the case last season.
And they threw the ball like 40 times a game last season, so I can only imagine what they're going to do now.
And it was all throw-ups. Winston was not a good quarterback. So I think that's the easy answer for me to take. So I'm going to take the cop out and go with it.
We asked our followers on Instagram who is winning NFL free agency. Hannah Gregory said the Saints, Mike Parr said Tom Brady, and Pat Pitts said the Lions. So those are the fan answers for this question. Let's move on. Pat Pitts really thinks Detroit is helping themselves out here, getting rid of Darius Slay.
Yeah, tell me how Marcus Trufant works out for him. Eagles, Darius Slay, yeah.
Patriots free agents have made a payday from former Patriots coaching staff in general and in Miami. The former Patriot coaching staffs becoming head coaches increases the value of Patriot free agents astronomically when you look at what they're going for on what Patricia and Flores are signing people for. So you want a winner there? Patriot free agents who aren't signing in New England are getting paid.
Let's move on to teams who think they're winning but may not be in the best shape. Lawrence, go ahead. What's your pick?
You ready for this one? I got it. It's all lined up. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Listen, you just said that Winston was invincible, and I know the 35 picks is a sore spot. But he had the most passing yards in the NFL last year, if I'm not mistaken. If he didn't, he was still over 5,000 yards. The kid could throw a long ball, and his receivers benefited. So Godwin and Evans have to change their game. So you have to bank on Brady being 41 years old in a new team, in a new system, with new players.
43.
Or even worse. This is how bad this is. New 43-year-old quarterback to come in, learn the system, and gain chemistry with the players around him. You have to hope that Shaq Barrett even comes near what he was able to do last season. I mean, because that guy was a monster, and he had never looked like that in his life. So is he a one-hit wonder, or is he a premium defensive edge rusher? And then, you re-signed Ndamukong Suh and, Jason Pierre-Paul, and you really did nothing else other than sell tickets with the Brady signing. And they're in the toughest division in football. I think Tampa's overblown.
I have 1 point. Winston leading the league in yards is like when you create a guy in Madden and you throw for 8,000 yards and 60 touchdowns, but you also just throw it deep to the one wide receiver you have. That's Winston's season was essentially when you create a guy in Madden. Let's throw the same play every single time and not care because you're going to win. You're going to win the MVP in Madden when you have 8,000 yards and 70 touchdowns and no one looks at the 40 picks you threw and you're playing on all. That's just how it is. That's Winston. Of course he had the most yards because they let him throw it 60 yards downfield to Mike Evans every time, 45 times a game.
On paper, it looks like an upgraded quarterback. I'll give you that. Will it be? We'll find out.
Fair enough.
David?
Just to add on to that before I move on to mine, I think in Tampa, they're going to completely change that system, though. Brady's going to build
without a doubt.
System. So it's not so much him learning the system, it's them learning his system. No, it's only the the skill position players. They really need to, blocking is blocking. Those guys will be okay. But anyway, nonetheless, love this question, Luke. And I think that I had a perfect answer lined up before you even asked it. I'm going to stay in the same division and go with the Atlanta Falcons because they think that they have stacked up and they're going to be competitive, and they're just not. They're not going to be a good team. They're probably going to finish last in that division, even behind the Panthers. And they just, they added Todd Gurley. They had a couple defensive additions who do look nice, honestly, off the cuff. But in the end of the day, I just think that they're going to get crushed when it comes time to play football. Todd Gurley's not going to be an effective running back ever again because of the arthritis in his knees. Matt Ryan is on the wrong end of 30. and it doesn't seem like it's going the right way.
David Ecasella cutting into the Falcons one more time for good measure.
It's a Four Guys Talking Sports classic.
So I'm gonna change it up with another answer here. So the team I went with here, they might prove me wrong, but I think what we're seeing is 2019 all over again. I don't think the Cleveland Browns have fixed themselves yet. We see this all the time with the Cleveland Browns. They spend money in free agency to spend money. And they got some good guys. They got Austin Hooper, who's probably a very solid tight end. Jack Conklin was the most sought after offensive lineman in free agency. Carl Joseph is a former first-round pick. But you can't just throw money at things to fix a team. They tried this last year. They tried throwing money at things, and it didn't work. So they thought they had it figured out last time. They definitely didn't. And now they're missing some of the best parts of their defense in Schobert and Kirksey. I'm just not ready to buy into Cleveland yet. Ryan?
Yeah, I am going to go with the Houston Texans. And breaking news just before we started recording was they traded for Brandon Cooks.
Oh.
I think that even further proves my point is that you've gone from Hopkins to Cooks, which I don't think is at all what you were looking for. I think Bill O'Brien, for some reason, saw a problem in Hopkins' game and didn't fill the void with a player like Cooks, who's coming off, I believe, career lows in both receiving yards and touchdowns. So I don't see that move, and O'Brien really stuck to his guns with that one. But as far as that team goes, Hopkins should not have been leaving the team, and Cooks is by no means a replacement from that. So I do not think that this team has improved. I think it's gotten significantly worse, but I think that Bill O'Brien is sitting in that office thinking that his football team is better than it was last year, and I just don't see that being the case.
Ryan Hicks out here, breaking news. Brandon Cooks to the Texans for a second. Great analysis, Ryan. Way to pick up on it mid-recording. All right, let's close it out with this segment. A team that is still lost in the woods, no direction, no guidance whatsoever. Lawrence.
This is the easiest question you've asked me on this podcast ever. Ever.
I've asked you how you are every episode.
This is easier. This is so much easier.
Okay.
Because maybe sometimes I don't know how I am. I don't know. It's life. If all four of us don't have this answer, I'm hoping it's because you felt it was too obvious and you wanted to talk about something else. But it's the Washington Redskins. It's so easy. I mean, you still don't know what you have in Haskins to the point where you're hearing about them potentially taking a quarterback in the top 5 in the draft this year. Your offensive line is completely in shambles because Scherf got franchise tagged and he wasn't happy about it. And Trent Williams is not going to play football for Washington next year, regardless of what happens. Other than that, they did a whole bunch of nothing. And this is still probably the worst team in the National Football League. They did sign Ronald Darby, so I can give them that. But, I mean, they got Kendall Fuller, I guess. That makes me happy. They're a train wreck. Complete train wreck. And they have one of the worst owners in sports history.
Very true. David, will you agree?
It's very hard to disagree, but I initially did have a different answer. So I'm going to, just for the sake of argument, go with the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
Because I feel like they also don't know what they have going on, and it seems like they're going to go into camp having a competition between Nick Foles, if we have camp, that is, but having a competition between Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky for quarterback. And it's a competition that I would want to be nowhere near a part of. And
for sure.
Something, it just seems like almost like a mockery of the sport of football. And on the Redskins point, I don't think it's something that they definitely don't know what they're doing, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility if they sign Cam Newton in the coming weeks and end up with a competent NFL quarterback and a team that actually can go out there and compete in the football field. Because they have Ron Rivera, they have this quarterback now that nobody really wants. And it's his personality that seems to be pushing people away. But I don't think that Dan Snyder's going to mind that. Personally, I mean, the guy likes cookies. Who knows?
So I too have a different answer than the Washington Redskins. Both very good answers by you gentlemen. But I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I don't think this team might not be lost for long, but they're definitely lost right now. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. And I know they're waiting for the draft because their big acquisition of the spring is Joe Burrow. We all know that. But the free agency is the time for you to get Joe Burrow some help. You go out, you get him some linemen, you get him some weapons, you do whatever you want to help Joe Burrow. And the only thing off the top of my head I can think of is they franchise tagged AJ Green, who's way past his prime. So if they don't really luck out with this draft, if they don't use all the draft picks and get some winners, we're going to see Cincinnati be another bottom 3 team next year.
They did spend a lot of money on defense. They've done nothing on offense, and maybe that's explained by Burrow and potentially an offensive lineman, and they'll definitely take a receiver in the draft. We've already talked about how deep this receiver class is. But they did spend some money. They got DJ Reader, who agreed to like a huge deal. They got Trey Waynes, who agreed to a huge deal, and Von Bell, the safety. So they did spend some money, at least, just to play devil's advocate. I'm not saying they're not out of the woods, because they're not, but they at least spend.
And we all know how I feel about spending money per my last answer. So Ryan, close us out. Who do you got?
All three make good arguments. I don't have a new team that I could add. I think all three teams have their own list of problems. I think it shows why football is such a difficult sport to rebuild in because of the 3 phases of the game. So when you put duct tape and patch over one hole, it feels like 5 more appear on a football team. So I think all 3 teams have their own problems that they're going to face if and when football resumes again. So very good answers by all 3 of you. I agree. I'll jump on. I got nothing to add.
I'm real surprised you didn't say the Jets.
Yeah, right?
Before we get to mailbag, let's close it out with the potential future of sports and how we know it, because there have been some murmurs, gentlemen. There have been some murmurs.
Murmurs?
The MLB has been trying to pitch the idea of playing all their games in Arizona. The NHL is considering coming back relatively soon, hoping to get those playoffs going and not canceling the season. Dana White has a failed mission. He almost got UFC to put on an event April 19th and unfortunately had to cancel it today. But we just don't know where to go. So, David, what's going to happen?
To be honest, I don't know what the hell's going to happen.
I was going to say, why are you asking David, for Christ's sake?
You think I'm the weatherman? Like what?
Full disclosure, I thought David would have the most entertaining answer off the bat.
That's fair. No one really knows what's going to happen. It seems like these leagues are trying to put together plans of something that could feasibly happen. It doesn't really seem like most of these plans are plausible. I like the idea of what the NHL is doing, however, because you'll have 16 teams and then each week half of them will leave. So you go from 16 to 8 to 4 to 2, which makes a risk of infection much smaller as it would be than having 30 MLB teams sequestered into one hotel or one sort of area playing this regular season out. I do think that the fact remains America is we just want to watch something. Sports, something to help with the healing process, something to just take our minds off what's going on. And I think it'd be awesome to have some sort of, spring training like baseball, really any sport, even like you guys said, the UFC just got canceled. But I was looking forward to that fight. It's just not going to happen now. They, Dana White almost bought an island. I thought they were going to get some native tribe to let them do it somewhere in Oklahoma. Didn't happen, because the Native American reservations don't have to listen to state law. They abide by it. There's technically their own nation. So they could have done their own thing. But even they're looking at this is something that could, really hurt some people. So it's ending up not being something that seems feasible. I don't think the NBA won't even talk about it till May, Adam Silver said. So I don't think anything is at least feasible till June. Realistically, July, August, though, is the more realistic target, I think, of any sports going forward. We got, all the esports going on. Like I'm watching right now, Montrezl Harrell and Derek Jones play 2K. Not really watching, but it's on. It's white noise,
I disagree. And Lukester left out one sport, and to my knowledge, it is the only sport that has committed a plan, confirmed dates and venues for sports to be returned.
NASCAR's back on?
No.
Was it golf?
Damn.
Golf. 3 of the 4 majors have been rescheduled. They have the Open, the U.S. Open in September. They have the Masters in November. It's going to be awesome. They've confirmed the PGA Championship for August. So golf is planned. Their CEO has done a bunch of interviews. So some people may not enjoy watching golf, but one, it's a sport, so we can't complain. And two, if you don't like watching golf, you're absolutely insane because it's riveting.
All right.
I love watching golf.
Okay.
Love watching golf,
Just call it
and I will
riveting.
stand that. There is nothing better. There's nothing better than a Sunday afternoon watching the last couple of groups go down, especially if it's close.
I can name so many better things. Winning the lottery twice.
Nope.
A nice Sunday dinner.
Nope.
Football.
Ryan, it's amazing, and I watch majors normally and golf when nothing else is on, and I will definitely watch it when you get out of coronavirus. But if you have the audacity to tell people who don't watch golf that they think that you think they're insane.
Insane.
I mean,
insane.
Ryan, I play the game, which is why I watch the game, because it's one way to get better at the game is by watching the game. I mean, you have no interest in golf. This is watching paint dry, for Christ's sake.
Not when you haven't had a sport in 4 months.
I completely agree with you, but
this will probably be the highest rated.
You made a blanket statement. You said you don't watch
and
golf.
I stand by it with no sports. That the one league,
I'm pretty sure,
one governing body that has created a plan, confirmed dates and locations.
That's because, up until people closed parks this week, you could have played golf anyway. It's a socially distant.
You can still play golf in Connecticut.
Ryan, I just want to say this. As a non-golf fan, before everything was canceled, when they had golf on and they had the KHL on, I definitely thought about watching the KHL before I thought about watching golf.
Crazy. My other point about sports coming back, and this is something I saw on Twitter today that I think is very interesting, specifically for hockey and basketball, which was stopped mid-season, because baseball, they have a little more leeway. But the sports that stop mid-season, when you rush athletes back, I think there's some serious consideration to the quality of play that you're going to get, the shape that the players are going to be in, right? Because you've taken these players out of this grind and this groove that they're in, and their bodies are used to that 4 games a week schedule that they're on. And now if you want to throw them back into this everything's on the line mentality, like how the safety of the players there, I think, is something to take into consideration. And it's interesting conversation to have because everyone's clamoring for sports to get back. We all are. But I think there is something to be said about the product that will be put out there when that time comes, when these players haven't skated in months, haven't had any real form of contact. So I think that's an interesting point of conversation is when we get sports back, and sports back is better than no sports at all, but without question. But what's the quality going to be that is on the field or on the rink? So I think that's something interesting.
No one knows, and I think that goes along with no one knowing anything about how they're going to get back to their regular jobs either.
Yep.
So it's going to be a process. It's not going to be quick, and we'll see. I don't know, man. But I just, the hockey playoffs were supposed to start this week, and it feels like, this is the worst of both worlds because I have absolutely nothing to do in April, which means I'd be watching playoff hockey until 2 a.m. every night.
It was also Masters Week.
But now I have nothing to do in April. There's no hockey.
I will say this, though. If we get, let's say, in a crazy world where we have everyone playing playoffs in September, October, November, it is going to be wild.
Oh, yeah.
Wild.
Oh, yeah.
So it's something to look forward to. And I guess that in the grand scheme of things, when all this is going on, that's all we're looking for is something to look forward to and something to have. Some hope, something to get through it. Light at the end of the tunnel. It's there. And we just got to keep crawling towards it safely.
Definitely. All right, let's close out this show. Lawrence, hit us with it. What time is it?
Mailbag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mailbag.
I got some spring-loaded chair action on that screen.
I liked it. All right, first question. Tom Kamal wants to know if you've always been a fan of a team with terrible owners. Are you a sports fraud for leaving? And Ryan knows my answer to this question, but does anyone else have anything they want to say?
Yes, you're a fraud. I am that person. The three of us, the Lograno Acasella family that does this podcast, we are three of those people. We have the Wilpons, and we're Mets fans. So you're a fraud.
I don't think you're a fraud, because I told Ryan Hicks when I was 19 years old, if the New York Jets were dumb enough to sign Jay Cutler, I was not going to watch Jets football.
Nay. Not only that.
Football in general? I said,
Story from this. Our senior year, the Jets got pummeled some 1 o'clock game against some no-name team. And Luke,
Team in the NFL, got it.
No-name team, right?
in a moment of desperation, shut the big TV off. And I've told this before because we had a big TV and a little TV, and we used to play NHL every week for it. Luke shut the big TV off and said, I can't even watch this football team anymore. You can have the big TV for the rest of the season. So Luke is that fraud. He did it, and I watched the Patriots probably win out that season.
yeah, but I haven't left yet, but if I did, I wouldn't feel bad about it. Like, if anyone stopped being a Redskins fan, you wouldn't blame them? Like you would blame them, I should say. I wouldn't blame them.
I think it's wrong to give up on your team.
I agree.
Yeah, same, even though I've done it.
Yeah. Downgrading to your own city is different, though, I feel. It's a little bit of a more of a contrast.
Yeah, that's what me and Lawrence did.
It's true. Ryan, I was a Celtics fan.
That too. Forgot about that. All right. And other question relevant to today's news. Pat Pitts wants to know if you could bring back a legend in their prime for your team, who do you choose? And I'm going to give a weird answer to this question, but I'm going to look at the April 9th, the day of recording is the April 9th, 2020 New York Jets is who I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the Jets as a whole. I don't want Darrelle Revis. I want DeBrickashaw Ferguson. I want a left tackle, a Pro Bowler who missed one snap out of his thousands. A left tackle that could help Sam Darnold in this team. If he's not available, I want Nick Mangold. And if both of them miss their flight, I want Darrelle Revis.
This is easy for me. I'm going to pick two. I'm either going Bobby or Larry Bird. It's two of the greatest players to ever play their sport. They both played in Boston. If I could watch either player play, you could flip a coin, I'd be happy with either. To watch Larry Bird dominate the floor like he did, or to watch Bobby Orr dominate the ice like he did, it's, for me, a no-brainer. One of those two, I'd be happy with either. I couldn't pick between either.
It's not Tom Brady.
I saw Tom Brady in his prime. I didn't see Bobby Orr in his prime. I didn't see Larry Bird in his prime.
Oh, that's good.
David?
See, I initially had an answer, and then I heard Ryan's answer, and it made me kind of question my answer.
Yeah, me too.
But my initial answer was going to be Reggie Wayne, because I think the Colts need a receiver right now. You know, and I need that.
They could use one.
And I didn't want it to be Marvin because I feel like T.Y. is kind of a Marvin-like player. But after hearing Ryan's answer, I kind of think it'd be really cool to see Tom Seaver pitch.
Yep.
You know, so like
Exactly what I was
there's that,
going
or
with.
even Darryl Strawberry hitting the ball, you know, so
Yep.
it'd be good.
Both of you, Tom
My
Seaver.
answer before that also popped into my head was David Wright. I want.
And then also I thought David Wright too.
to plug the third base hole the Mets have right now and move McNeil elsewhere.
Beautiful. Yeah, I was watching his last
Please
game.
don't move McNeil elsewhere. We only have so many more places to move Jeff McNeil before he plays catcher.
Wait, listen, Ryan. We made it through this whole show without talking about baseball. Don't upset Ryan, all right?
Good point. Good point.
It's okay, Luke. We'll have a DH for him in like 2 years.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Four Guys Talking Sports. So be sure to like this episode, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you don't miss the next episode coming next week.
Mock draft special.
Mock draft special from the Four Guys Talking Sports. And for the Four Guys Talking Sports, my name is Luke Lograno.
I'm Ryan Hicks.
I'm David Axel.
And I'm Lawrence Lograno.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We will see you next time. Take care.
Stay safe and wash your hands.